It was the morning of June 22nd, 1941. 3 million soldiers stood in the dark, breathing in silence, waiting for a single word. Behind them stretched the longest invasion force in the history of human warfare. Tanks, artillery, aircraft, horses, and men pressed shoulder to shoulder across a front nearly 2,000 miles wide. And then the word came. The ground shook, the sky turned to fire, and one man, sitting alone in his command bunker, permitted himself a quiet smile. Because today, he believed, was the day the world changed forever. He had no idea he had just signed the death warrant for everything he loved. His name was Adolf Hitler, and in the summer of 1941, he made a decision so catastrophically arrogant, so breathtakingly reckless, that historians still struggle to explain how a man of such calculated cunning could get it so catastrophically wrong. He looked at a map of the world and decided he wanted all of it. Not parts of it, not most of it, all of it. And for one brief, terrifying moment in history, he almost got it. To understand how a failed Austrian painter ended up commanding the fate of entire continents, you have to go back. Not to 1939, not even to 1933. You have to go back to a dirty hospital bed in 1918, where a young corporal named Hitler lay blinded by mustard gas, weeping in the dark as Germany surrendered in the First World War. In that moment, something inside him fractured, and something else, something monstrous, took its place. He became convinced that Germany had not lost the war on the battlefield. It had been stabbed in the back, betrayed from within, and he swore in that hospital bed that he would find the betrayers and make them pay. By the mid-1930s, he had turned a broken, humiliated country into the most dangerous military machine the world had ever seen. He remilitarized the Rhineland in 1936. He absorbed Austria in 1938. He dismembered Czechoslovakia without firing a single shot. The Western powers, France, Britain, watched with nervous eyes and trembling hands and did nothing. They called it appeasement. Hitler called it exactly what it was: weakness. And he fed on weakness the way fire feeds on oxygen. Then came September 1st, 1939, the invasion of Poland. 2 days later, Britain and France finally declared war. But Hitler was not afraid. He had already done the math. Poland fell in 5 weeks, Denmark and Norway in 2 months. And then France, mighty France, with the most celebrated army in Europe, with the Maginot Line, with British support, with everything history said they needed to hold. France fell in 46 days. 46 days. The world could not believe what it was watching. Hitler stood in the forest of Compiègne, in the very railway car where Germany had surrendered in 1918, and he made the French sign their own humiliation in the same spot. He danced, literally danced. A little jig captured on film. History had never seen anything like it. By the summer of 1940, he controlled Western Europe from the Atlantic to the Polish border. He had signed a non-aggression pact with Joseph Stalin in the East. He had allies in Mussolini's Italy and an eager partner in Imperial Japan. Britain stood alone, bleeding defiant. Churchill growled through the radio that Britain would fight on the beaches, in the fields, in the streets, and never surrender. But Hitler barely listened, because his mind had already moved east toward the greatest gamble in military history. Here is the twist that very few people fully understand. Hitler never actually wanted to destroy Britain. He admired the British Empire. He wanted a deal. Britain keeps its overseas empire. Germany keeps Europe. Simple. He waited through the summer of 1940 for Churchill to call. The call never came. So Hitler began to pivot. And the pivot he chose would cost him everything. His plan had a name: Operation Barbarossa. And it was, by any measure, the single most audacious military operation in the history of warfare. On December 18, 1940, Hitler signed Directive No. 21. The order was chilling in its simplicity. Germany would invade the Soviet Union. Not probe it, not raid it, destroy it, completely, before winter, in what Hitler estimated would take no more than 10 weeks. 3 army groups, North, Center, and South, would advance simultaneously across a front stretching from the Arctic to the Black Sea. They would capture Leningrad, Moscow, and the oil fields of the Caucasus. They would annihilate the Red Army so completely that it could never recover. And then, Germany would be untouchable. Stalin received warnings, dozens of them, from his own spies, from British intelligence, even from defectors who crossed the lines and gave exact dates. Stalin dismissed every single one. He was convinced Hitler would not be so reckless. He was convinced the reports were British provocations designed to drag the Soviets into war. On the night of June 21st, 1941, the Soviet border guards were at half strength. The aircraft were parked in neat rows, wingtip to wingtip. The ammunition was locked. And at 3:15 in the morning on June 22, the world ended for 4 years. In the first 72 hours, the German Luftwaffe destroyed over 2,000 Soviet aircraft, most of them still on the ground. Entire Soviet armies were encircled within days. The Wehrmacht advanced at speeds that seemed physically impossible. In the first 6 months of the campaign, the Germans captured over 3 million Soviet prisoners of war. 3 million. It remains the largest mass capture of military personnel in all of recorded history. Hitler looked at his maps and saw only confirmation of what he had always believed. Slavic people, he declared, had no capacity for real resistance. The Soviet state would collapse like a rotten building. All you had to do was kick in the door. But then came the twist that changed the world. The Soviet Union did not collapse. It bled. It staggered. It lost battles on a scale that would have destroyed any other nation on Earth, but did not collapse. Stalin, terrified and furious in equal measure, found something deep inside him that history had not expected. He broadcast on the radio and called the people to a holy war. Not a communist war, a patriotic war, a war for the motherland. And the people, ordinary Russian, Ukrainian, Belarusian men and women, responded with a ferocity that left German commanders speechless. They blew bridges with themselves still on them. They burned their own cities to deny the Germans shelter. They froze to death in the snow rather than retreat. In the snow, nobody who was not there can truly understand what the Eastern Front winter did to human beings. Hitler had told his generals the campaign would end before autumn. The winter equipment, the coats, the boots, the antifreeze for the tank engines, was never ordered. When the temperatures dropped to -30, -40 degrees Celsius in November and December of 1941, German soldiers were still wearing summer uniforms. They burned their horses for warmth. They packed frozen corpses around themselves in the snow to block the wind. The very lubricant in their rifles froze solid. And just outside Moscow, just 12 miles from the Kremlin, the German advance stopped. Stopped completely. It never recovered those miles. On the other side of the world, something else was happening. Something Hitler had not counted on and should have. On December 7th, 1941, Japan attacked the American naval base at Pearl Harbor. And 4 days later, 4 days in one of the most catastrophically self-destructive decisions in military history, Hitler declared war on the United States of America. Nobody asked him to. Japan had not attacked the Soviet Union or anyone in Europe. There was no treaty requiring Germany to enter the Pacific War. Hitler simply decided that America was decadent, soft, and too divided to fight. He had been listening to his own propaganda for too long. Franklin Roosevelt stood before Congress the day after Pearl Harbor and asked for a declaration of war against Japan. He was going to stay out of Europe. The American public did not want a European war. Hitler handed it to him. Within days, the full industrial and military weight of the United States began to turn, slowly and then with terrifying momentum, toward Germany. The man who had danced in the Campine railway car had just united his three most formidable enemies, Britain, the Soviet Union, and America, into a single coalition against him. In Berlin's Reich Chancellery, behind closed doors, some of Hitler's closest generals began to do quiet mathematics. They looked at the numbers, the Soviet manpower reserves, American industrial output, British naval dominance, and they felt something generals are not supposed to feel: despair. General Halder, Hitler's chief of army staff, wrote in his diary, that the vision of a quick campaign in the East had irrevocably shattered. He wrote it carefully in small, precise letters, as if hoping the words would not be true if written small enough. The tide did not turn in a single dramatic moment. It turned in 1,000 small, brutal moments across 3 years of slaughter. It turned at Stalingrad in the winter of 1942 to 1943, where the German Sixth Army, 300,000 men, was encircled and ground to dust in an urban hell of such violence that soldiers measured their survival in hours. It turned at Kursk in the summer of 1943, the largest tank battle in history, where the last great German offensive in the East died in the mud and the fire. It turned on the beaches of Normandy on June 6, 1944, when the Western Allies smashed open a second front that Germany had no resources left to close. And through it all, Hitler refused to accept reality. He fired generals who told him the truth. He moved divisions on maps that no longer existed on the ground. He declared cities fortresses and ordered soldiers to hold them to the last man, producing nothing but mass graves. The man who had once read a continent like a chessboard now sat in a concrete bunker 50 feet underground in Berlin, pale and shaking, pushing phantom armies across a crumbling empire. On April 30th, 1945, with Soviet soldiers fighting block by block less than a mile from his bunker, Adolf Hitler put a pistol to his head and pulled the trigger. The man who had wanted the entire world died in a hole in the ground, surrounded by rubble. The 1,000-year Reich he had promised lasted 12 years, for months and 8 days. Here is the thought that history leaves us with. Hitler did not come close to winning because he was weak. He came close to winning because he was terrifyingly effective, until the moment he believed his own myth. The moment he stopped calculating and started believing he was destiny itself. That was the moment the end began. Power without humility does not conquer the world. It digs its own grave. And the only question is how many millions of innocent people are buried in it first.